I'm Lisa Coffey, and you guys, if you know about how many of you know about Ayurveda? You know? Pretty good? Okay, good. We'll just do a quick background of Ayurveda so everybody's on the same page, which would be really nice. So back in 2004, which sounds like eons ago now, I wrote a book called What's Your Dosha, Baby? And the idea was it's like Ayurveda and relationships. So I paired people up by their doshas, which we'll talk about, their mind-body types. And it's kind of like Linda Goodman's book, Sun Signs or Love Signs. Do you remember that back from the 70s, Love Signs? Yeah, so it's still selling today. But that book will give you a good background in Ayurveda, and it also gives you some insight into your relationships, how to get along with anybody, because you start learning what Ayurveda is all about. So Ayurveda is the science of life. It comes from India. It's more than 5,000 years old. Veda means science, and Ayur means life. And it's really the art of living in harmony with nature. And it's something that we all desperately need right now because our lives have gotten so far out of balance in the modern day world. We tend to be indoors too much. We tend to be in front of the computer too much. We tend to be eating too many processed foods and doing whatever's quick and easy. But when you learn to get in the Ayurvedic lifestyle, you'll find that your life is so much more beautiful and so much more grounded because you really are living in harmony with nature and you're doing what's good for your body. So the main principle behind Ayurveda is that everything in the universe is made up of the 5 elements. And the 5 elements are space, air, fire, water, and earth. So if you think about it, you think about the vegetables that grow up from the ground. Where's there fire in that, right? There's fire in it because the sun helped it grow. There's water because the rain helped it grow. There's earth because it got the nourishment from the earth. There's air in it because there's air all around us. And there's space in it because if you look in a microscope at any cell, you'll see that it goes beyond. There's hollow everywhere. So just like in that vegetable, there's the 5 elements, we have them in our body too. So we can see that air is easy because that's the air we breathe, right? It's in our lungs. We can't live without that air. Space is like when you look at your bones inside, there's space. And also there's space in our body because the organs aren't all connected to each other. If you watch Grey's Anatomy like me, you see when they take the organs out of the body, there's space in between. Fire is in our digestive system. It helps cook the foods that we eat. And it also keeps our bodies warm at the right temperature, right? Air, space, fire, water, everybody knows we're made up mostly of water. That's what our bodies are mostly composed of. We're like the same constitution as the ocean as far as salt and water. And earth is what keeps us on this planet, is what keeps gravity here. So we are solid mass. We've got that earthy component to us in our bones and our weight to keep us planted on the ground and not floating off into the sky. So that's where it starts. And with these 5 elements, since we all have 5 elements, right, there comes the 3 doshas. And this is an important word, dosha, D-O-S-H-A. And that is a mind-body type. So there are 3 different mind-body types in Ayurveda: Vata, Pitta, and Coffey. And since we all have all 5 elements, we each have all 3 doshas. But the thing you want to remember is find out which dosha is dominant for you, and then that gives you lifestyle recommendations, food recommendations, exercise recommendations, everything to help you be the best you, to express in the best possible way who you are. And that's what it's all about. Ayurveda is all about not just the knowledge of life, but the knowledge of self. Because we're living this life. We're here on this planet for a purpose. That purpose is to know who we are. Ayurveda is one path that we can get there. We can know who we are. So let's start with the first dosha. The first dosha is called Vatadosha. And in Vatadosha, people who have this dominant dosha have more air and space in their physiology than other people. So in nature, you would see Vata dosha in a hummingbird. A hummingbird is very light, very airy. It flits around very easily from plant to plant to plant, right? It seems like it has no attention span because it's there and then it's gone and then it doesn't know where it's going next. It's very unpredictable. That's what Vata people are like too. In terms of trees, it would be like a bamboo tree or a birch tree. It's very long and airy, and air circulates around it, you know. It bends very easily. It's very flexible in the breeze. And that's what Vata trees are like Vata people. Vata people are like, supermodels that seem so thin and they say, oh, I can eat anything I want. They're typical Vata people. And some of those beautiful yoga girls that are so flexible and bendy and everything, and you're like, oh, why can't I do that? It comes naturally to them because that's in their constitution. Personality-wise, Vatas are very unpredictable. They're very funny. They're often the class clown. They're very spontaneous. Like, they're always up for everything. You know, it's like, do you want to do this? Sure, let's go. Do you want to do that? Yeah, let's do that. And they love novelty. Anything that's different. Like if you ask a Vata person, what kind of pet do you have? They would say, oh, I have a porcupine, you know, and that's like, because they like the unusual, the different kind of stuff. Oh, yeah, I have an iguana, you know. It's not just your standard, typical pet that anybody would have. They're very quirky. Physically, they can be dry because, you know, air and space together, it dries things out. You know how on a hot day when the wind comes by, you feel parched like the desert. And that can lead to digestive problems because the digestive tract can get dry. The colon can get dry. They can get constipated. The dryness in the brain and in the mind leads to anxiety. So Vata types tend to be a little more nervous, a little more anxious. They don't like traveling like plane flights and everything because it's dry and because it's movement, and all that stuff aggravates Vata and makes the Vata worse. Can you guys hear me okay? Because I can't hear myself very well, and I know there's so much music and everything. Okay, good. Good, thank you. Yeah, I feel kind of weird about it. Yeah, okay, cool. Good. Now I'll go forward with confidence. I'm a Vata type. That was my anxiety moment, okay? Okay, so, but they're really, you know how some people, like our vernacular in English kind of gives us insights into people. And so when people say, oh, she's got her head in the clouds, that's like describing a Vata person, right? Clouds, air, and space, right? Or, oh, she's such an airhead. Vatas learn so fast. You're like, that person's smart. But then you ask them like 10 minutes later and they forget. They've forgotten. There's so much stuff going on in their heads that they can't, you know, it just in one ear out the other. It's like the hummingbird. Oh, that flower was good. Oh, this flower is better. Oh, that flower is better. What flower were you at before? I don't know. You know, it's like that kind of thing. So Vatas are great, but with every dosha, there are strengths and there are challenges. So the strengths of Vata is they're very creative, they're very fun, they're very intuitive, and the downside is they can have anxiety, they can have digestive problems, and they can be a little bit flaky where they're out out of balance. ADD, actually, that is so prevalent right now, is actually a Vata imbalance. And if you know someone who has ADD and you treat them with the Vata balancing routine, they'll be a whole different person. Whole different person. So we can talk about the remedies for Vata later. So the second dosha is called Pitta. Pitta. So Pitta dominant people have more fire and water in their physiology. So what does that look like when you have more fire? Fire is like redness, right? So they might have freckles. They might have, they blush very easily. Also, when they get angry, they get red. Fire moves upwards, right? The flame moves up. So for men, they tend to go bald early. And for women, they tend to go gray early. So that's kind of one sign it's a Pitta person. If you see a woman with beautiful white hair or a man who's, 20-something and bald already, that's a sign that they're a Pitta type. They also tend to be more muscular, whereas the Vadas have a more slim and lithe kind of frame. Pitta types are more muscular, more sturdy, more athletic, A lot of athletes are Pitta types because personality-wise, Pittas are very competitive. They like to win. They make very good leaders, and they like to be the boss. And if they're not the boss, you might have problems with them because they want to be the boss. So to keep a Pitta, when they're in balance, they're very intelligent. They're very deep thinkers. They're very critical thinkers. But then when they're out of balance, they could be critical. They could be bossy. They could be pushy, that kind of thing, angry. So in nature, you would see Pitta in an eagle. If you think of an animal, it would be like an eagle. And if you compare an eagle to a hummingbird, an eagle is very strong and muscular, right? And an eagle doesn't waste its time going from thing to thing to thing, right? Flower to flower to flower. An eagle sits on a perch, and it surveys the scene like this. And it's thinking, and it's coming up with a strategy, right? And then when it sees what it wants, whoosh, in one fell swoop, it gets it. That's how Pittas are. They plan and organize and come up with a strategy, and then whoosh, they come in and get it. So they can be very successful in business. When they know what they want, they can get it, and it's really great. Let's see. So what else? Oh, and then you also see Pittas in nature in a pine tree. Because you think about a pine tree, it's very strong, right? But it goes in one direction. It doesn't sprawl out all over the place. It doesn't bend really easy like the Vadas. It goes straight up to the sky, one direction, very ambitious, very strong. Pittas are very hard workers, but you don't want to get on their bad side. You don't want to get them mad at you because that Pitta fire comes out, So that's Pittas. And digestion-wise, they have a super strong digestion because there's so much fire, right? So when they have fire in their Agni is called your digestive fire. And whereas Vadas, being air and space, they don't have as much fire. They have a weaker digestive system. Pittas have a very strong digestive system. So they can cook that food inside of them. They can eat raw foods, whereas Vadas can't eat raw foods. If Vadas eat raw foods, they're just going to get gas. It's just miserable. But Pittas, no problem. They can eat a salad, have smoothies, all that kind of stuff. Not a problem. Okay, so then Kapha. Kapha is the third dosha. Kapha people are dominant in the elements of earth and water. So think of the qualities of earth and water. It's a little more heavy, a little more grounded, right? So an animal in nature that would be Kapha-like would be a tortoise, low to the ground, steady, easygoing, takes their time, or a swan, if we're on the bird track, right? So the swan just glides beautifully on the lake. And swans are actually one of the few birds that mates for life. And that's an indication of kapha also, because kaphas are super, super loyal people. They're super loving, and when they have a friend, it's like a friend for life. If you go through their phone on their contacts, the list is so long because they just keep their friends, and they love their friends, and they'll do anything for a friend. And if you need help at 2 o'clock in the morning, call your kapha friend, because they're going to come through for you. The Vata friend will be, oh yeah, I'll be right there, and then they'll fall back asleep. And the Pitta friend will be giving you heck, saying, how did you get into the mess? Why didn't you do this? Why didn't you do, like they had a better idea. And you're like, okay, whatever. Call your kapha friend. They're like, I'll be right there. And that's how they are. They're just instinctively, they want to help. They want to be there for you, anything. Not only will they be there, but they'll bring chicken soup and a pair of sweatpants. I mean, whatever you need, they're there for you. So, Pitta types in nature would also be like an oak tree. And you think of an oak tree, it's big and sturdy, but it has very deep roots, and it has a very large canopy. And that's indicative of kapha also, because they have this large circle of friends, and they have deep roots with their family. Family means so much to them. And they have a lot of longevity, Oak trees last for a long, long time. Whereas, birch trees might not last. They might fall over in the wind at some point, or a pine tree might get cut down and used for firewood. But an oak tree tends to be there, very giving, in that it gives shade and it gives acorns and it gives, all kinds of stuff. So that's a kapha personality. The downside to being a kapha is that heaviness. When you get too much kapha, it can translate into depression. Kaphas are very emotional. With all that water in them, they can be very emotional. And when you mix water with dirt, what do you get? You get mud, and it gets sluggish. So when they're out of balance, they can be couch potatoes. They can be like, oh, I don't want to go anywhere. I just want to sleep. They love sleeping. They love being at home. They're very homebodies. But that's not the best thing for them. The best thing for them is socialize and exercise. Those two things will keep a kapha in balance. Kaphas need to exercise every single day until they sweat. So that can be a different amount of time for everybody, but until they sweat is good. They need to run and lift weights and just go, Whereas Pittas are good with like competitive sports, because that'll keep them active and involved. Tennis or baseball or things like that, where they're keeping score and they want to do better and better. That's the best kind of exercise for them. And for Vadas, the important thing for Vadas to remember is exercise, but not too much, because Vadas have a very small reserve of energy. And if they get worn out, if they hit the wall, boom, they're down for the count. It's going to take them days to recover. You get something to drink. So see, as a Vada, I get a dry throat when I talk, so I had to have a drink. So for Vadas, it could be just taking a nice walk around the block is good exercise. Or doing 20 minutes of yoga. The problem with yoga in the West is that a lot of classes are 90 minutes long. So your Vata people are exhausted by the end. It's too much. So they can just get like a DVD and do it at home, because yoga is good for everybody. And they should never do hot yoga, because that wears them out really fast. Pittas should never do hot yoga, because heat makes more heat, which gets them out of balance. So for Pitta, that's terrible. But kaphas can do hot yoga. Kaphas can take it, but an hour and a half is too much. Like 45 minutes is what they should do. And they're the only ones who can really do it. Okay, so that's the 3 doshas. Now let's talk about a little bit about how those 3 doshas can stay in balance. So we talked a little bit about exercise. What about foods? So for foods, Vata types, which is, air and space, have very sensitive digestion. They need warm, cooked foods. Makes it much easier to digest. Even in the summer, yes, warm cooked foods. So for breakfast, something like oatmeal would be good for them. For lunch, something like lentil soup, dal, that kind of thing. And for dinner, maybe vegetables and rice, something like that. Ayurveda does recommend a vegetarian diet. I'm a vegan, but I've added in a few vegetarian items like ghee, because when you're a Vata, ghee is like medicine for you. Vatas have such a hard time lubricating their system, but ghee is like, it's medicine. It just helps you in so many ways. So at Tulsi Spa, I'm from Tulsi Spa in Studio City. We have an Ayurvedic practitioner on staff. She recommends for all her Vata clients 2 tablespoons of ghee per day. And you can put it in foods, you can put it on toast, you can put it in oatmeal, whatever. Mix it in with your foods, but 2 tablespoons a day. I was surprised. I was like, well, I only really have 1 teaspoon. And she's like, you need 6 times that ghee. So I'm like, okay, I have your permission. I'm just going to eat ghee. I love it. So it's good. The other thing that's really good is yogurt. But you have to be careful what kind, because, a lot of the milks in the West are not really healthy because of the cows that it came from and all the GMOs and the preservatives and all that kind of stuff. You can make your own yogurts. You can even make vegan yogurt. Like I've made vegan yogurt with almond milk before. You just get those yogurt starters and those little yogurt machines. It's pretty easy, and it's actually so much more delicious than the store-bought, and you control what sugar goes in there and what kind of sugar goes in there. Vata types there's 6 tastes in Ayurveda, and all foods and medicines are classified under these 6 tastes. So there's sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, and astringent. So really at every meal, if you have all 6 of those tastes represented, then you will stay in balance, because your 3 tastes are in there for your dosha, but you have all the tastes, so the rest of your doshas are being balanced also. Now, if you're a Vata, then you want to favor, like you have sweet, sour, salty, bitter, pungent, astringent in your breakfast, but favor a little more sweet, a little more salty, a little more sour, because that's what helps keep Vatas in balance. Now, in the Western diet, that's just about all we have. For most people who go to, fast food restaurants or whatever, and you look at the tastes that are in there, it's sweet, sour, salty. It's like the Americans just have this addiction to that. Sugar is added to everything. If you read the labels on the back of foods or even on the menus, it's like, what did they do? They just put more sugar, they put more salt. Our palates don't have that, are not as refined as they should be. But when you go on the Ayurvedic diet, you'll find that your taste buds really awaken, and you really start to like more foods, and you start to experience better health. So you want to eat these different variety of foods. That's one thing also that Ayurveda says is, don't eat the same thing every single day. Have a variety of foods in your diet. Okay, so what foods qualify as sweet, sour, salty? Well, sweet, of course, sugar, right? But you got to take sugar in moderation, because sugar is processed. You don't want processed foods. White sugar is bad for you because it's processed. So get the most unprocessed, unrefined version you can find. But sweet you can find in fruits, all the fruits. You can find it in breads. Milk has that sweet taste that goes with it. So there's lots of different foods that have the sweet taste. Sour taste would, you guys know what sour tastes like. But a healthy way to get sour would be like pickles, because it's like, fermented. Lime is really good. Lime is also very cooling. Whereas lemon is warming. So see the difference? Because of the yellow color, the lemon is really warming. And yet, here we are in the summer. What do we go for? We're like, oh, a nice cool lemonade. And it tastes cool going down. But what it's doing is it's warming up our body. So that's not so good. We should have limeade instead in the summer. Lemonade in other times. Lemon in hot water is good in the morning to stimulate your digestion. Get things perking along. Okay, sweet, sour, like, you guys know sour foods, right? Some berries are a little more sour than others and everything, but it's important to have that food represented. And then salty, the only thing that's salty is salt. And the problem with salt is that white salt, table salt, is processed like crazy, so it's not good for you. So where do you go to get salt? Well, Himalayan salt is a good choice, but you want to get the most white Himalayan salt you can, because the pink that's in pink Himalayan salt comes from like metals in the earth, like copper and things. So you never want to overdo on that. So look for Himalayan salt that's mostly white. The salt I use is called Soma Salt, S-O-M-A salt, and you can get it at svayurveda.com. My mentor, Vaidya Mishra, he came up with a process where they would buy at big chunks of Himalayan salt that's, all pink and white, and the guy sits there and actually removes all the pink from the white by hand. So you get this very powdery, it's almost like baking powder or baking soda. It's not like regular refined salt. But it's so delicious, and you don't need as much. And it's actually good for you. So you don't have to worry about, oh, I'm having too much salt, my blood pressure is going to go up and all that. It's totally different. So you get that salty taste. And salt also brings out the flavors of whatever food it goes into. So there's a lot of reasons why we need salt in the body. Vadas, it's important to have salt too, because if you've ever seen like a desert and you pour water on the desert, it's so dry, what happens? The water just runs off. It doesn't go sink in, right? Vadas need oils, and they need salt to help the water stay in their body. Otherwise, if you have a Vata friend and they're like every 5 minutes, they got to find a bathroom, it's because the liquid is just going straight through them. So tell them you need to add a little salt to your diet, add a little oil to your diet so the water actually sticks to you a little bit and hydrates you. Otherwise, it's not doing its job. If you drink a water and you have to go to the bathroom right away, the water's not doing its job. Okay, so sweet, sour, salty is for Vatas. And warm cooked foods. That's the main two rules. Okay, so then for Pitta people, Pitta people are already, this is how I remember the ones for Pitta. Pitta people are already a little salty, so they don't need salty. They're already a little bit sour, so they don't need sour. They need sweets. They need sweet, and they need bitter, and they need astringent. Bitter, sweet, bitter, and astringent. They don't need pungent because they're already spicy. That fire in them is spicy stuff, right? So they need sweet, bitter, and astringent. So where do you get bitter and astringent? Astringent you can get from lentils, from beans, from those kind of foods, right? Anything that makes you kind of pucker up, that's what we call astringent. And Bitter foods, mostly you can get from spinach, dark lean leafy greens. And because we have so few places where we can get bitter in the American diet, that's why so many people have a coffee addiction. They think it's because of the caffeine, but what it really is they're craving that bitter taste and they're not getting it from any other source. So they're like, oh, I need my coffee. But if they were eating a lot more leafy greens and things like that, they wouldn't crave the coffee so much. They would be fine with, decaf or whatever. Caffeine's not good if you're a Vata type because it makes you too nervous. It makes you have more anxiety. Caffeine's not good for a Pitta type because it fires you up more and they're already doggone fiery. Coffee types can take a little bit of caffeine because every once in a while they need a little motivation, So 1 cup in the morning is okay for coffees. You got to give them that. Okay. So for the Pitta diet, they also need cooling foods because they're so hot. So an example of a cooling food would be anything that is dark skin on the outside and light skin on the inside. So zucchini, cucumbers, things like that, summer squash, what else? Watermelon, a lot of foods like that. Think mints, think of things that make you feel cool and refreshed. Those are what's really good for Pittas. What Pittas should avoid are things like tomatoes, anything with too much red in them, because that's warming, it's heating, and that'll get them more out of balance. So they're talking about sweetness. There we go, feeling the sweetness. Okay, so Pittas can have raw food. So they can have a salad at lunch. They can have, vichy soir or whatever, cool foods, refrigerated drinks, but not ice cold. Nothing icy, because the ice just douses that Agni, the digestive fire. See, it's always drives an Ayurvedic person crazy when they go to a restaurant and they automatically serve ice water. You're like, they don't know Ayurveda. So I try to gently ask for water with no ice, with lemon, because I'm a Vada, so I can have lemon. My husband's a Pitta, he wants water, no ice with lime. And so that's like our drink. Let's see. Restaurants are a little crazy making for Ayurvedic people anyway, because you see all the bad combinations. In Ayurveda, there's a lot of combinations that you shouldn't have. Like, you don't want to put a warming food with a cooling food. The whole meal should be overall balanced, So, like, you don't want rice and cucumbers is one of the no-nos in Ayurveda. It's not a good combination. Fruit and milk is a bad combination. Any kind of dairy with fruit is a no-no. In fact, fruit should be eaten only by itself before a meal, 2 hours before a meal, because fruit digests so much faster through the system. So what happens is if you have fruit for desserts, you've got a nice big meal in your belly, and then the fruit comes in and it wants to digest faster and go past that food, but it can't get through. So it sits there and ferments, and then you get gas and you get all kinds of problems from, upset stomach and crampy and all that kind of stuff. So it's better if you're going to have fruit, have it at the beginning of a meal or preferably 2 hours in between a meal. And if you're a Vata, cook the fruits and then eat it because it's better for you. Now, on a day like this when it's hot, this is Pitta season, you can have a little, Vadas can have a little bit of soft fruit, like a apricot or a juicy peach, because that's very nourishing to the cells, and it's very hydrating also. So those are the kind of fruits, if they're sweet and juicy, those are the kind that Vada can have, rather than an apple, which an apple most have that astringent taste, which would be good for a Pitta or a Coffey. Okay, so Pitta, what they also need to avoid is super spicy foods. Unfortunately, Pitta people love spicy foods. And why do you think that is? It's because the principle of like attracts like, right? The fire wants more fire, but that's the last thing they should have, because that's going to make too much fire and they're going to get out of balance. Vadas tend to like things like chips and crackers, but that's the last thing they should have, because it's dry and light, which makes them have more Vada. So Vadas should have snacks like, maybe grilled cheese, something like that would be, or cheese on crackers, something like that with cooked vegetables. Pittas should have something cooling, maybe a little coconut smoothie, something cool like that. Coffees, on the other hand, they need the spicy foods. The spicier, the better. So they can take things like chili and cinnamon and, cayenne pepper and things like that, because they need the stimulation. So that actually helps coffees be in balance. So, when I'm making dal for people who are all different doshas, I tend to put in a spice blend called a churna, which is good for everybody, right? But then after it's cooked and they're in their individual bowls, I'll put a little more Vada spices in the Vada one, a little more Pitta spices in the Pitta one, and a little more like chili and stuff in the Coffey one, to keep everybody's happy then, and they're all, oh, that was the best, and it looks like they're eating the same thing, but they just have a little bit extra spices in them. That's how you can balance all the doshas when you're in a family and you're like, everybody's got a different dosha. What do I do? Just use it with the spices is a good way to do it. With coffees love food. Coffees are dominant. The dominant senses for coffees are taste and smell. So they tend to go for food as comfort food, right? They love the smell. They love the taste. But they tend to overindulge, and hence coffees can get too heavy, too weighed down. We don't want them to be like that, because that aggravates their coffee and gets them more depressed and more unmotivated, and we don't want that. We want them active. So if you add spice to food, then they tend to be more satiated and they're not craving something more. So you need to make sure that all 6 of those tastes are represented in the meal. If all 6 tastes aren't represented in the meal, then that's why people say, yeah, I'm full, but I feel like I need something more. Maybe that pie, or maybe that chocolate cake would be a nice little thing. But if you've had a meal with all 6 tastes, you're like, yeah, I'm good. No, I don't need dessert. You don't have those cravings for something more. So bitter, pungent, and astringent are the 3 tastes that coffees should favor. And for every dosha, the largest meal should be between noon and 1 p.m. because that's when your digestion is the strongest. So just like people have doshas, the day has its doshas. The year has its doshas. And, everything falls along these cycles. So right now, it's the end of June. We're just getting into Pitta season, which is summer. So everybody's going to be a little more Pitta influenced in the summer because it's hot. So even Vadas who get cold so easily will be feeling a little warm this time of year. So, my husband might say to me, whoa, that's weird. You're not wearing a sweater. It's 80 degrees. Are you sure you're okay? You know, I'm like, yeah, I'm good because it's summer and I'm feeling more Pitta today. But he's Pitta and it could be 60 and he's like, hot in here, you know, let's turn on the air conditioning. So we have this mixed marriage, the Vata and the Pitta. And it's challenging when you have to sleep in the same bedroom. And I have like a weighted blanket and all the comforter on me, and I'm just like that. And he's like, opens the window and, you know, lets in the cool breeze. But that's just our nature. And one thing we learn with Ayurveda in our relationships is that a person's dosha is their nature, and you can't change that. Just like you wouldn't say to the swan, you lazy swan, what are you doing sitting on the lake? Why aren't you flitting around the flowers like the hummingbird? We wouldn't expect that at all. But we do it to people all the time, you know? We say, you hummingbird, settle down. Why don't you go on that limb and just watch for a while like the eagle? Be patient. They can't do it. That's not their nature. But yet we expect it of the people in our lives all the time. So when you know how doshas operate, then you can learn to love as is. And you can help them stay in balance. And you can give them the love and care. You know, it's like, you know, that book about your love style. You know, doshas have their own love style too. Kaphas are dominant in taste and smell. Pittas are dominant in sight. So, you know, if you want to woo a Pitta, present something really beautiful. You know, they love flowers. They love organization. They love a clean house. That's like such a turn on for a Pitta. Oh my God. And they'll get irritated if it's an unmade bed. You know, they'll get irritated if the papers are out of order or you haven't taken the trash out. So that's a good thing when you're living with a Pitta to know. And Vadas like spontaneity. Vadas are dominant in sound and touch. So Vadas need to hear it, you know, where Pittas need to see it, Vadas need to hear it. They need warm, loving words. They need soft, loving music. They need oily, warm massage. We do a massage at Tulsi called Abhyanga with warm sesame oil. And you can do this at home too. Just warm up the sesame oil in like a little crock pot or something. And, you know, use lots of oil. You will have your Vada person just butter in your hands, you know. It's wonderful. So right now it's Pitta season and everybody's a little more Pitta. Pitta season will last until about October. When November comes, then we're getting into Vata season. Vata season is a little more cold and dry. So everyone will be feeling more Vata. Your hands will be cold. You'll be wanting to cover your ears when you go outside because your ears feel cold. And it's very important that Vatas do that too, because that cold in their ears really just sends them out of balance. And then that's from November through February is Vata season. And then March through June is Kapha season. So in Kapha season, we're all a little more congested. It's like allergy season. We're all a little more heavy. We're all a little more romantic, you know, because you got Valentine's Day in there and Easter, and those are the time like the lovebirds come out, you know, it's mating season for the animals, and you're just more lovey-dovey, right? You're more like in the mood, and that's how Kaphas are. Let's see. So, do you guys want to talk about sex for a minute? Okay. Most people do. So, Vadas like to get creative with sex. They like to mix it up. But Vadas are so unpredictable. It's like one day they could totally want it, and another day they're like not interested at all. They're interested in something else. So it's unpredictable that way. Pittas are super passionate. They are the best lovers. And when you get two Pittas together, that's such an interesting combination because they're great in bed, but they also fight a lot because of that two Pitta energy. They both want to be the boss, right? So they tend to fight and then have makeup sex and fight and have makeup sex. And that's their MO. And then Coffeys are loving and romantic and steady, and they have a lot of longevity, and it's quantity over quality kind of thing. They're romantics. Okay, so let's talk about the Ayurvedic day and what it looks like. Let's see how I'm doing on time. Okay, I'm doing good on time. Okay, so ideally, the Ayurvedic day is the same for everyone. You want to wake up around 6 a.m. 6 a.m. is being in harmony with nature because typically around 6 a.m., that's when the sun is rising, right? So that's when nature is waking up. And from 6 a.m. until 10 a.m., that is Kapha time. So Kapha is slow and steady, right? So this is a good time to get up, meditate, exercise, shower, have your breakfast, prepare for your day. Take it easy. But see, the key is you want to get up by 6 a.m., right? Because if you don't and you're in bed, that Kapha energy is going to sink in, and you're just going to want to roll over and go back to sleep, turn the alarm off, and you might sleep until the end of Kapha time. So to harness that energy, try to get up before 6 a.m. That's the best way. Then from 10 a.m. until 2 p.m., this is Pitta time. Pitta time is when the sun is highest in the sky, right? I told you that's when your digestion is strongest, so that should be your largest meal of the day. And Pittas are ambitious, right? And they have that fire. So that's when you get the most work done. So that's the time you should plan to do your most important work. Boom, boom, boom. Just knock it out, get it done. Have that break for lunch, get your digestion going, and work till 2 o'clock. Then from 2 p.m. until 6 p.m., that's Vada time. This is the time you're the most creative. So this is time for problem solving, brainstorming, coming up with new ideas for your business. If you've got any graphic arts work to do, that kind of thing, that's your time to be creative. And then at 6 p.m., you kind of want to end your day. And this is the best time to do your second meditation of the day. If you do your first meditation at 6 a.m., that's awesome. And do your last meditation by 6 p.m. before dinner. Because it's better to meditate before you eat, not after you eat. Because if you've eaten, then your body is working on digestion instead of working on transcendence. And you want to just transcend and forget your body, not be reminded that you have a body, right? Okay. So much competition for attention. For Vadas, this is so difficult. Pittas can focus and concentrate. And Kaphas are yeah, whatever, They say, I got this, a Vada, a Pitta, and a Kapha walked into a bar. And there's a mouse. Or a snake or whatever. There's a mouse. The Vada's oh my God, there's a mouse. And they jump on top of the bar stool and go, oh my God, there's anxiety sets in. The Pitta goes, I got a plan. You get a box, you get a broom, you open the door, and we're going to get this taken care of right now. Go. That's how the Pitta is. And the Kapha's oh yeah, it's a mouse. Very cool, nonchalant, easygoing, no problem. Okay, so where did I end up? Okay, 6 p.m. So 6 p.m. until 10 p.m., this is coffee time again. So you want to finish work by 6 p.m. because coffee time is take it easy time. You might go on an evening walk. For Pittas, an evening walk is like medicine. It's so good for you to be out in that moonlight. Moonlight is so balancing and wonderful. And to have that lunar energy, it's great. So you can walk your dog or whatever. But the important thing is try to stay off the computer. At least 2 hours before bedtime, stay off the computer. Because the blue light that comes from the computer, even if you're wearing yellow glasses and stuff, it's very Pitta aggravating and it can keep you up at night. So if you want to get a good night's sleep, try to, from 8 p.m. on, don't go on the computer. Try to avoid TV too, but TV is not as bad as the computer because we're much further away from it, Better to just listen to music, do yoga, socialize with your friends, talk on the phone, read a book, those kind of things, and you'll end up getting a better sleep. You can take a bath, take a warm shower, whatever, relax. But try to get to bed by 10 p.m., and then you're going to get your best night's sleep. Because if you wait until after 10 p.m., now you're getting into Pitta time, right? So 10 p.m. until 2 a.m. is Pitta time. And what happens? You want to work. You get your second wind. That fire starts kicking up, and you're like making your to-do list in your mind. And you may be laying in bed going, oh my God, I forgot to do this. I forgot to do that. So you want to catch coffee time and get into bed when it's all relaxing. And there's actually been studies done on this. The Maharishi Mahesh Yogi's organization, Maharishi University of Management, recorded the sounds of nature. And during coffee time, from 6 p.m. until 10 p.m., the crickets and everything is so mellow outside. 10 p.m. comes, and the crickets are like, bah, 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 like sharp, 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 very Pitta in their nature. So try to catch that Pitta time. Because what happens during Pitta time when you're sleeping is all the work that your body needs to do by itself. Work that it can't do in the daytime when you're busy doing your own work, right? When you're asleep, the cells are repairing, the muscles are relaxing, the bones are regenerating, the organs are getting the juices that they need. That deep rest is healing your entire body. So you really need to be in bed from 10 to 2 because those are the only hours it happens. If you go to bed at 2 a.m., you just missed it. You're not going to feel good the next day because your body's still worn out from the day before. You didn't get the deep rest that you need. Then from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m., now this is Vada time again. And what happens during Vada time? We're creative, right? So this creative time is when we dream. And in our dreams during Vada time, it's helping us to solve problems that we couldn't solve in the daytime. Things that we'd be racking our brain. What do I do? What do I do? What do I do? We planted the seeds that those problems needed to be solved. Now we're asleep. All the puzzle pieces in the brain are falling into place. And it's coming up with a solution. So that when we wake up and we're in our day, we have these aha moments. Now I know what to do. Now I know what's wrong. Now I know how to solve the problem. All that stuff. That's because you slept from 2 a.m. until 6 a.m. and your brain was able to regenerate. So then the day starts again at 6 a.m. You get up, you have your breakfast, you do your yoga, you meditate, you take a walk, whatever you do for your daily routine, and you go on with the day again. So you need to eat breakfast. With Ayurveda, you eat 3 meals a day. Breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Lunch is the largest meal of the day, but breakfast is pretty substantial. It's good to have some protein, even if I'm a vegetarian vegan, so I don't have animal protein, but I'll have like almond milk on oatmeal or almond milk. I'll warm up almond milk and even put it like on rice checks or something if I'm in a hurry, because there's not much bad in that. I'm a label reader. There's not too much sugars in it or anything. And then that is also a sweet taste, the almond milk, that helps balance my Vata. And the protein in it gets me going. And for lunch, have something more substantial. And then dinner doesn't need to be heavy at all. It just can be a smaller meal. A little cup of dal or some soup or vegetables. I sometimes make pasta at night. And my mentor, Vaidya Mishra, taught us also a very specific form of Ayurveda called Shankavasya Ayurveda that says you should not eat nightshades because nightshades have neurotoxins in them. For example, eggplant is a nightshade. It has nicotine in it. Who would have thought, right? But back in the day, they used to call it the mad apple because when people ate too much eggplant, they'd go like crazy. And they were really just high on nicotine. So tomatoes are the same way. Now, this isn't to say that you can't use it as like a condiment or something. That's a little bit. But to have tomato as a staple in your diet every single day, the cumulative effects are going to show in your body. You're going to see repercussions from that. So avoid nightshades. Avoid garlic and onions. Yeah, I'll tell you why. Time out. She says, no. You can have them a little bit as a condiment, but don't eat like massive amounts of garlic because garlic in Ayurveda is a medicine. It has antiviral, antimicrobial, antibiotic properties. So if you feel a cold coming on, you get that little tickle in your throat, bake some garlic, mix it with some ghee, eat it on a piece of toast, and it's going to nip it in the bud. I'm telling you. But if you're eating garlic every single day, your body doesn't recognize it as medicine, and it's not going to work for you, right? So I know, I love garlic too. But just use it sparingly. Save it up for when you have a cold, and then go to town, indulge, But hopefully if you're doing the Ayurvedic lifestyle right, you're not going to get sick. I mean, it's amazing how healthy people can be going on the Ayurvedic diet. So just kind of watch those things, okay? Let's see, what else? Does anybody have any questions? Yes. So the question is, how do you know what your dosha is? Okay, so there's lots of different ways. If you're just talking about self-care and what do I eat for me or that kind of thing, and you're a pretty healthy person, you can take a dosha quiz. So I have a quiz on whatsyourdosha.com. It's a very simple quiz. It's not scientific at all. It's just for fun, right? And that gives you an idea of what your dosha is. If you really, really want to know exactly what your dosha is, you can go see an Ayurvedic practitioner. And at Tulsi Spa, we're an Ayurvedic wellness center. So we have Ayurvedic practitioners on staff. And you can get an Ayurvedic consultation where that person will read your pulse. And you know how in the U.S. when they take your pulse, they're listening to the beats, the heartbeats, right? But in Ayurveda, they use the 3-finger pulse. And one finger's looking for Vada, one finger's looking for Pitta, one finger's looking for Coffey. And they can measure with your pulse at different layers of the pulse. So you'll feel them take your pulse, and then they go a little deeper, and then they go a little deeper. And they can tell the difference between your prakruti. Your prakruti is your state of balance that you were born with. Your dosha, that's your best self. So it'll say, I'm probably 50% Vada, 30% Pitta, and 20% Coffey, right? So they'll tell you like what your proportions are. And then they can give you recommendations that are very specific to you. So your Prakriti is what you're born with, and that's your natural state of balance. But people always ask, does your dosha change? Well, the dosha you were born with never changes. But what happens is we're affected by the seasons, we're affected by the time of day, we're affected by the foods we eat, we're affected by the environment, we're affected by stress, and that can knock us out of balance. Interestingly enough, 80% of all diseases have a Vata imbalance. Vata is the lead dosha, so it tends to get out of balance more easily, and it's like the domino effect. So if Vata gets out of balance, Pitta gets out of balance, then Coffey gets out of balance, and you're kind of a mess. So if you feel like, I just don't feel like I'm my healthiest and happiest right now, I'm kind of sluggish or whatever's going on, or like I'm burping a lot, or, I'm constipated, or things are going on that you're like, it's not like I'm super sick, but I just don't feel my best. If you go see an Ayurvedic practitioner, they'll tell you what to eat, how to exercise, what to do, and they'll also recommend some herbs for you. So this talk is supposed to be on herbology, so let me just mention a few quick herbs because our time is up. It goes so fast. So now we get to the herbs at the end, right? Okay, so there's a bunch of different ways you can take herbs. You can take tablets of herbs. You can take capsules of herbs. Capsules tend to be better than tablets because they go into your digestion more easily, right? The capsule kind of opens up right when it hits the stomach. But if they only have tablets, you can do tablets. It's just a little bit harder to digest. The best way to take herbs, though, is in food, to cook with them. And the best way to cook with them is through oils. So in America, we're taught, you don't need oil, you should be on a low-fat diet. But that's exactly wrong, especially for Vadas. You need oil because the oil is the carrier for the oil to get the herbs to the proper organs in your body. Okay? There's 3 steps to digestion. There's digestion itself, the food that goes in your mouth, starts in your mouth. It starts breaking down when you chew it. You swallow it, it breaks down, it goes into your stomach. That's the first part of digestion. Then there's assimilation. Now it's in your stomach. How does it get to where it needs to go? If you are eating intelligent foods, and intelligent foods are foods that are alive and fresh, like fresh vegetables, not like moldy food, not leftovers that have been in the refrigerator, not something that's been in the freezer and frozen. Those are called dumb foods or dead foods. Okay, we want intelligent foods. We want smart foods. I tell this to kids all the time. How can you tell if a food is smart or dumb, and why do you want smart foods? You want smart foods because they know where to go in your body. Dumb foods don't know where to go. They'll just sit around and make you full and miserable, and then you just poop it out. That's not doing you any good. In fact, it might be doing you bad because it's making everything sluggish. It's preventing the good foods from going where they need to go. Okay, so where was I going with this? And the last one is elimination. So elimination, you wanna poop at least once a day, preferably twice a day. And nobody talks about this, but it's good to do that. You should talk about it because everybody does it, and you need to do it. Get that stuff out of your system. Once you've digested, the waste needs to go somewhere. So if you have strong digestion, then the foods will go where they need to go in your body, and the stuff that you don't need leaves your body. You don't want the stuff that needs to leave your body hanging around in your body. It doesn't belong there. Okay? So we need to take care of all those three things. Okay, so eat your herbs is a good way to do it. Turmeric is a big fad right now, okay? A lot of people put turmeric in smoothies. They'll put turmeric powder in smoothies. Wrong way to do it. It's not going to benefit you at all. You want to get the root turmeric, the food turmeric, and cook it in oil. That's what'll help you. Turmeric tablets aren't really going to help you either, especially because when you buy turmeric in tablets, a lot of times you can't even tell if it's real turmeric. It's like powdered down turmeric. You have to look at the country of origin and all this kind of stuff, you know. One time I was out to dinner with Vidya, and I said, Vidya, you need to have the turmeric rice. We were at Hugo's. They have a great Hugo's in Studio City, and they have turmeric rice. And he was very suspicious. So he asked the server to bring him some turmeric. And she said, oh, you mean turmeric rice? He goes, no, just the turmeric. Just bring me the turmeric. I want to see the turmeric. So it turns out it was powder, right? He looks at it very suspicious. He tests it, smells it, feels it, tastes it. Okay, it's good. So he knew it was real. I'm like, phew, because I recommended this restaurant. They use real turmeric. Thank goodness. So you need to make sure. And if it's real food, then you know it's the real thing, right? But turmeric is good for you because it has anti-inflammatory properties, and inflammation is a big problem with the American diet. We're all way too bloated and stuff. Ashwagandha is another Ayurvedic herb that's good. Ashwagandha means the smell of the horse, and it means it's going to impart to you the strength of a stallion, and it gives you a lot of, it's like a rejuvenatory herb. Gymnema is really good at killing sugar. So if you're eating too much sugar, for people who are like pre-diabetic, a little Gymnema tea goes a long way. Tea is a really good way to get your herbs in because it's gentle to the system. But the other way to get the herbs into your system is through the skin. So you can get ghee that has like Brahmi in it. Brahmi is a great herb for the brain. And you can get ghee with Brahmi in it and just rub it on your skin, rub it on your forehead, close to the brain. Great way to get Brahmi. You can cook with it or whatever. Brahmi is also called Bacopa. So if you've seen that. And then Tulsi is an amazing herb that is great for everybody. Tulsi is holy basil. It's not the same kind of basil that you see in Italian restaurants. It's a special kind of basil that has jagged leaves that you find in India. And you can cook with it. You can drink Tulsi tea. It's why I named Tulsi Spa after Tulsi, because it's holy, it's pure, it's really good. And it actually it's really good for anxiety and depression. And it has those antibacterial, antiviral, antifungal properties. It prevents infection. Then the other herb that's really good for you, for your digestion, is Triphala. It means 3 fruits. And it's a digestive tonic. So it just helps your digestion, no matter what your digestion problem is. If you got the runs, or if you're constipated, or you're sluggish, mucousy, whatever, Triphala will help. Okay, so I got to end because I know our next speaker is here. But thank you all for joining me. And come to Tulsi Spa. Go to tulsispa.com. We're over in like right by the entrance. We're doing massages for $2 a minute. And they're amazing massages, and Reiki and all kinds of stuff. Okay, thanks, you guys.